The rain wasn't supposed to start that early, but it did. It came down in thin, slanted lines against the windshield, and for 20 silent minutes I just sat there in the car, engine off, watching it trickle down. I didn't reach for the wipers. Didn't turn on the radio. Just sat. Still. My fingers gripped the steering wheel like they had grown roots into the leather, like letting go would make everything fall apart faster than it already had. I was parked outside the place I never thought I'd be, not a hotel, not a friend's place, not even a bar. It was the front of the local rehab clinic. The kind with chipped brick walls and a crooked sign that always looked like it might fall off any day. A place I used to drive past without a second glance. Now I was here. Because my wife, Hannah, was in there. Detoxing. Drying out. Carrying another man's baby. It all started 6 months ago, but of course, I didn't know it then. Back then, things were just weird. Not broken. Not shattered. Just loose. Like threads on a sweater you don't notice until they're wrapped around your wrist. I remember the first night something really twisted. We were sitting at the dinner table, me, Hannah, and our daughter Lily, and I asked Hannah to pass the salt. She didn't even look at me. Just kept scrolling through her phone with one hand while her other absent-mindedly poked at her food. I asked again. This time she looked up and said, "Why don't you get it yourself?" Lily froze. Fork halfway to her mouth. I tried to laugh it off, but it hit me wrong. It wasn't just the words, it was the tone. Cold. Dismissive. Like I was an annoying stranger who'd interrupted her dinner. That was the first crack. A small one. But deep. After that, things started changing rapidly. She stopped coming to bed when I did. Said she was watching shows downstairs or needed time to unwind. She stopped cooking. Stopped cleaning. Started picking at everything I did. My laundry habits. My tone. My breathing. At first I thought it was stress. She said work had been insane. Said the new outreach project at the shelter was draining her. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? We had been married 11 years. We had a daughter. We shared everything. Or so I thought. Then came the nights she didn't come home until past midnight. No calls. No texts. And when I'd ask where she was, she'd snap, "Don't be so controlling. I'm allowed to have a life, Ryan." That word, controlling, it hit me like a slap. I'd never laid a hand on her. Never told her who to see, where to go. But suddenly, I was the problem. Suddenly, I was a leash. The biggest red flag came wrapped in perfume. One night I was putting away laundry, hers, not mine, and as I folded one of her blouses, I caught a scent that didn't belong. It wasn't her perfume. It wasn't mine. It was strong. Musky. Cheap. Male. I sat there on the bed for almost an hour with that blouse in my lap, trying to convince myself it was a mistake. That maybe she sprayed something new. That maybe it came from the shelter. Maybe someone hugged her. Maybe. But that's what you do when you're being lied to, isn't it? You try to build a ladder out of excuses, hoping it gets you high enough to avoid seeing the truth right in front of you. The ladder collapsed 3 weeks later. She was in the shower. Her phone was on the bathroom counter. For the first time in months, it didn't lock when I tapped it. No password. Just wide open. Almost like fate had finally lost patience with my blindness. I didn't want to look. I didn't. But my hand moved anyway. I told myself I'd just check one thing. Just one. Her messages were chaos. Dozens of texts from a number saved under T. I opened them. Scrolled. Kept scrolling. I need you again tonight. You make everything go away. I swear I'll quit this time. Just stay with me. He doesn't know. He's too busy playing house. You're mine now. And then the one that made me forget how to breathe. You were right. I'm late. It's yours. I'm keeping it. My throat closed. The room spun. The sound of the shower drowned everything. I sat down on the edge of the bed and just stared at the wall. When she walked out, towel wrapped around her, I didn't even look up. I just held up her phone. My hand was shaking. I asked one question, barely more than a whisper: who is he? Her face didn't change. She reached for the towel drawer, dried her hair like I hadn't spoken, and finally muttered, "You shouldn't have looked." No apology. No denial. No fear. Just that flat, heartless sentence. You shouldn't have looked. That was the moment I realized the woman I married, the woman I had built a life with, didn't exist anymore. This wasn't a story about infidelity. It wasn't even a story about betrayal. It was about erasure. I was watching the end of a film I didn't know we were in. The credits were rolling, and I was the only one still in my seat, wondering where it all went wrong. And this? This was only the first fall of the dominoes. It took exactly 3 days before the truth spread beyond our bedroom. I didn't tell anyone at first. Not my brother, not my best friend Mark, not even my mom, and she could smell emotional disaster over the phone like a hound. I wanted to process it in silence. I needed time to even accept that it was real. But secrets like this don't stay quiet. Especially not when the person who tore it all apart doesn't feel a shred of guilt. On day 3, I was in the kitchen, half-heartedly scrambling eggs for Lily when Hannah strolled in like she was walking into a salon. Hair curled, makeup on, phone in hand, scrolling and smiling. Smiling. Like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just demolished everything we had with a man named Travis, an unemployed, half-recovering junkie she met at the shelter, but had apparently been seeing for months behind my back. She poured herself orange juice, glanced at me once, and said, "Don't burn the eggs, chef. Lily hates when they're crispy." I stared at her. This woman I used to love. This stranger in my house. She had blown a hole through our marriage, and now she was joking about eggs. There was something in her eyes, not defiance. Worse. Indifference. After Lily left for school, I followed Hannah upstairs. No yelling. No throwing things. I just asked her if she'd been using drugs too. She laughed. Not nervously. Not shamefully. She laughed. What? Do you think I'm on heroin now, too? Jesus, Ryan. Don't be dramatic. I didn't blink. You're pregnant, Hannah. She rolled her eyes and sat on the bed. Yeah. So whose is it? I asked, voice low. You and I haven't, in months. She didn't answer. Didn't even pretend to reach for a lie. It's his, she said, like she was commenting on the weather. Travis. Yeah. Silence stretched between us. I could hear the faint ticking of the hallway clock, like it was mocking me with every second that passed. My ears rang. My vision tunneled. And still, she looked at me like I was being the unreasonable one. I don't get why you're acting like this is the end of the world, she added, crossing her legs like she was settling into a gossip session. I've been unhappy for years. You just didn't want to see it. Unhappy. That word. I nearly laughed. Because you know what? I had seen it. I'd seen the distance. The late nights. The locked phone. The constant blame. But I didn't think she was cheating. I thought she was tired. Burned out. Maybe depressed. So I gave her space. I picked up the slack. I did Lily's homework runs, made dinner, folded laundry. I was trying to hold everything together while she was off playing rehab romance with a guy who had track marks on both arms. But now, none of that mattered. What do you want me to do? I asked finally. Just live here and raise another man's child while you keep seeing him? She didn't hesitate. He's not in a place to raise a kid. He's not stable. But I still care about him. And I'm not getting rid of the baby. I'm keeping it. That was it. No apology. No compromise. She was keeping the baby. The product of her affair. With a man she admitted had relapsed a couple times but means well. And she wanted me, to stay. To raise it. To act like this was just another bump in the road. I slept on the couch that night. She didn't check on me. Didn't come down once. The next morning, she was gone. No note. Just her car missing from the driveway and her phone disconnected. Hours passed before I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was a nurse from a clinic 3 towns over. Apparently, Hannah had walked herself into a detox program. Said she needed to get clean for the baby. She gave them my number as her emergency contact. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt cold. Used. Trapped. Because now it wasn't just betrayal I was dealing with, it was the aftermath. The ripple effect. The mess she left behind for me to clean. And then came the twist I never saw coming. That night, Lily sat across from me at the dinner table, pushing peas around her plate. She was quiet. Too quiet. Then, out of nowhere, she looked up and said, "Daddy, when the baby comes, can we keep it?" I didn't answer right away. I couldn't. She said it again, softer this time. "Mommy said you're mad at her, but the baby didn't do anything wrong. It could be my little brother or sister. I could help. My daughter. My sweet, innocent daughter, already being used as a pawn in something she couldn't begin to understand." I looked at her, and something inside me broke. Not in a loud, angry way. In the way a man finally realizes he might never get back the life he thought he had. Because now this wasn't just about me. Now the storm was moving through my daughter's world. And I had no idea how to protect her from it. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of the couch, staring at the baby monitor we hadn't used in years, the one I'd dug out of the attic after Lily was born. It was old, cracked on the side, a faint hum of static leaking out every few seconds. I don't know why I'd brought it down. Maybe I needed something physical to hold on to, something that reminded me of a time when the world still made sense. Because right now, nothing did. My wife was in a rehab facility. Not for the first time, I'd learn later. She'd been there before, during one of her weekend retreats. She just never told me. She told Travis, though. She told him everything. Her pain, her cravings, her loneliness, things I thought she shared with me. But apparently, that version of our marriage had only existed in my head. And now she was carrying his child. I kept thinking about what Lily said. Can we keep it? It tore something open in me. Because I could tell she had been thinking about it for a while. Hannah had gotten to her early, probably whispered things like, "It'll be your baby brother," or, "You'll be such a good big sister." Manipulation, clean and subtle, the kind only a mother could make feel like love. And the truth? Lily would have been a great sister. She has that soft heart. The kind of empathy that feels too big for her small body. But she's 10. She doesn't know what it means to raise a child that's not yours. She doesn't know what it means to stare into the face of a baby every day and see your wife's betrayal looking back at you. She doesn't know what it means to try to forgive someone who destroyed your world and then handed you a piece of the wreckage to raise. Around 2 a.m., I stood in the kitchen, drinking tap water and staring out the window. The silence in the house was heavy, not peaceful, but sharp. I missed the normal sounds. The clinking of Hannah's spoon against her yogurt cup in the mornings. The soft thud of her slippers as she wandered down the hall. Even her annoyed sighs at my dumb dad jokes. I missed the woman I thought she was. And yet, I didn't miss her. The real Hannah, the one who lied, who cheated, who left our daughter caught in the crossfire of her own selfish chaos, that woman I didn't know how to mourn. The next morning, I drove to the clinic. Not to see her. I didn't want to speak to her. I didn't want more of her half-smirks and blame-shifting and toxic calm. I went to talk to a counselor. I needed someone, anyone, to help me understand what I was supposed to do next. Her name was Michelle. She had gray hair pulled into a tight bun and eyes that had clearly seen too much. I told her everything. I didn't hold back. And when I finished, she just looked at me for a long time before saying, "You don't owe her anything, Ryan. But your daughter, she's watching everything you do right now. This will shape how she loves. How she trusts. Who she becomes." I left with that sentence echoing in my head. Later that afternoon, I sat Lily down on the couch. No cartoons, no snacks. Just us. I told her the truth, as much of it as I could package into something a 10-year-old could understand. That mommy was sick. That she made some mistakes. That the baby wasn't daddy's, but that didn't make the baby bad. That we would figure things out together. She nodded, quiet. Then she asked, "If mommy doesn't come back, can we still have the baby?" I didn't know what to say. Because the answer wasn't simple. It wasn't yes or no. It was complicated and ugly and wrapped in everything I was trying not to feel. How do you tell a child that love doesn't always fix broken things? How do you explain that sometimes, people you love set fire to the home you built, and then ask you to raise the ashes? That night, I got a call from Hannah. She sounded clearer. Not like the woman I married, not even close, but calmer. Like someone who'd finally had to sit in silence with themselves long enough to hear the truth. "I'm staying for the full program," she said. 60 days. Minimum. I didn't respond. Then she added, "I want to give up custody of the baby." I stood still. To me? No, she said. To you and Lily. If that's what you want. If you can. I don't think I can be a mom again. Not now. Maybe not ever. I didn't know if it was real guilt, or just another way to drop the weight on my shoulders and walk away. But either way, it was coming. The baby. Travis had disappeared. That much she admitted. Some halfway house, maybe jail, maybe worse. She didn't know. She didn't seem to care. All she said was, "I'm sorry I ruined everything. But maybe this baby could still have something good." And she left it at that. No begging. No drama. Just that. And now I'm left standing at a crossroad I never imagined. With Lily by my side. Watching. Waiting. Trusting me to make the right call. 2 weeks passed. The days bled into each other, not with the chaos you might expect, but with an exhausting stillness. Every morning I woke up and looked around the house like a man checking for aftershocks, waiting for another wave of damage to roll through. But none came. Hannah stayed in rehab. No calls. No texts. Just a message relayed through her counselor confirming she'd signed the initial forms to relinquish parental rights. Not permanently, not yet, but the intent was there. She didn't want to raise the child. And she wanted me to decide if I would. The reality started to sink in. I was going to be a father again. Not biologically. Not through love. But through circumstance, a kind of emotional adoption forced upon me by betrayal, grief, and the one unbreakable bond one still had, Lily. She brought it up every day. When is the baby coming? Do we know if it's a boy or a girl yet? Can we name it something with a J? I like J names. She was already building her world around the idea that this baby, this child of the man who destroyed our family, would be her sibling. Her friend. Her responsibility. I should have stopped her. I should have said, "Sweetheart, we don't know what's going to happen." But I didn't. Because every time she smiled at the thought of this baby, I saw something I hadn't seen in her since the fighting started, hope. And I wasn't strong enough to take that away from her. So I started preparing. I cleared out the office and turned it into a nursery. I didn't buy much, just rearranged furniture, wiped down surfaces, opened boxes from the attic marked "Lily, baby stuff." I found her old crib. Her mobile. A pair of tiny socks I couldn't bring myself to throw away even after all these years. I held those socks for a long time, standing in the quiet of that room, realizing that no matter what happened, whether I kept the child or not, nothing in my life would ever look the same again. Then came the second call. It was a Tuesday evening. Lily was doing homework. I was in the middle of boiling pasta when my phone rang. It was a blocked number. "Mr. Callahan," a voice said. "This is Officer Brenner from County." I froze. "We've located the father of the child your wife is carrying. Travis Sutton." The name hit me like a slap. He's been arrested. Possession and assault. He was brought in late last night after an altercation outside a bar near Eastwood. He was carrying heroin. Unregistered firearm. Outstanding warrants in 2 states. I didn't say anything. "We need to know if you or your wife plan to press for parental custody. He's listed as the biological father, but given the circumstances." "I'm not his anything," I cut in. "Not legally. Not biologically." "Understood," the officer said. But he's contesting the adoption process. Says he wants the child. Claims your wife is trying to steal his kid. The blood in my chest turned to ice. He wants the child. I repeated, almost laughing. He's in jail. Yes, sir. But he's within his rights to file for paternal custody, even from lockup. He'll likely fail, given his history. But it could delay the process. Possibly months. That was the moment it hit me. This wasn't over. Not even close. I wasn't just being asked to raise someone else's child, I was now being dragged into a custody battle with a violent addict who had already destroyed everything I loved. Later that night, after Lily went to sleep, I sat on the porch for hours. The cold bit through my sleeves, but I didn't care. I had a choice in front of me. Not a clean one. Not fair. But real. Option 1, walk away. Let the state handle the baby. Let Hannah figure it out, or let the courts place the child somewhere else. Focus on Lily. Heal. Rebuild. Option 2, fight. Accept guardianship. Face Travis in court. Spend months, maybe years, dealing with the shadow of this man's chaos. Take on a child that would remind me, every single day, of the night I found those messages on Hannah's phone. And yet, there was a third voice in my head. Not a choice, but a whisper. A memory. The sound of Lily's voice when she asked, "Can we keep it?" Not him, not her. It. Like the baby was already part of us. Like she'd already made room in her heart for someone she hadn't even met. And deep down, I knew. If I said no, I'd lose something else. Not just the baby. But a part of Lily's light. And maybe a part of myself. The first time I saw Hannah again was inside a dull, beige room with plastic chairs and walls that smelled like disinfectant and old apologies. It had been almost 4 weeks since she checked into the rehab facility, and I hadn't laid eyes on her since the night she told me, casually, that the baby was Travis's and she was keeping it. I didn't come because I missed her. I didn't come for closure. I came because her counselor asked to meet, said it would be helpful to talk about next steps face to face. I almost didn't show. But part of me wanted to look her in the eye again, just once, to see if the storm that destroyed my life had left any damage on hers. She walked in with a paper cup of tea, her hair tied back, wearing a gray zip-up sweatshirt and no makeup. Her face looked thinner. Her eyes, tired. But it wasn't the exhaustion of someone detoxing. It was something deeper. Like someone trying to remember who they used to be. "Ryan," she said, with a small nod. No emotion. No warmth. Just acknowledgement. "Don't," I said before she could say anything else. "Just sit." She did. Across from me. Legs crossed, arms folded tight across her stomach. The counselor, Michelle again, sat between us. She opened a folder but didn't speak right away. Just let the silence stretch. Finally, Hannah broke it. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," she said. "Good," I replied. She nodded like she expected that. Maybe even deserved it. "I want to finish the program," she went on. "I'm doing better. But I'm not ready to be a mother again. Not to this child. Not to anyone. I know I'm not." Michelle leaned in. "She's signed the preliminary waiver for postnatal guardianship. But there's a complication. I didn't need to ask. Travis, I said. Yes, Michelle replied. He's filing a petition to assert paternity. Claims he wants custody. Hannah scoffed quietly. He doesn't want the baby. He wants leverage. He's furious I cut him off. He thinks if he claims the baby, I'll come back to him. Will you? I asked, voice flat. Her head snapped up. No. I haven't spoken to him in weeks. He's a monster, Ryan. I was blind, but I'm not anymore. I didn't nod. I didn't agree. I just stared at her, the woman who built a life with me and then set fire to it like it was a pile of leaves. I'm not taking you back, I said. Just so we're clear. I'm not doing this for you. She lowered her gaze. I know. Michelle cleared her throat. The legal path forward will be complicated. If you decide to pursue guardianship, Travis will need to be addressed legally. Depending on the outcome of his charges, he may lose parental rights. But he can delay the process. And if he refuses to voluntarily relinquish custody, it becomes a courtroom battle. A courtroom battle. With a drug addict. Over a child that isn't mine. I looked at Hannah. Did you ever think about this? What this would do to Lily? To me? She swallowed. Every day. Then why did you do it? She didn't answer. She just looked out the window. Michelle spoke up again. Right now, Hannah is willing to designate you as guardian at birth. That would give you temporary rights, but not adoption. That's separate. If you choose not to do that, the baby will go into foster care after delivery. Foster care. Lily's face flashed in my mind. Her room. Her drawings. The tiny crib I'd set up again with shaking hands. I felt like I was suffocating. You're not doing this out of guilt? I asked Hannah. She looked me straight in the eyes. I'm doing this because I know I shouldn't be a mother right now. And because I know you can be. The audacity. The insanity of what she was asking. But somewhere inside me, underneath all the bitterness and rage and grief, I knew she was right. I hated her for what she did. But I didn't hate the child. Not yet. Maybe not ever. And maybe that mattered. When the meeting ended, Hannah stood, looked at me once more, and whispered, "Thank you." I didn't respond. I walked out without another word. That night, I sat Lily down again. Told her everything. As honestly as I could without painting the walls with the ugliest parts. Mom isn't coming home right away, I said. And the baby might be coming to live with us. But only if we choose that. Together. She didn't speak at first. Just looked at me. Then she asked. What's his name? I blinked. We don't know if it's a boy yet. She smiled. But when we do, I want to help name him. I should have told her not to get ahead of herself. I should have told her we might not win this fight. But I didn't. Because in that moment, for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel broken. I felt needed. And that was enough to keep going. The court date was set for November 17th. That gave me 26 days to prepare. 26 days to become something I never thought I'd have to be, the man standing between a child and the person who helped destroy my life. I spent those weeks juggling 3 identities, father to Lily, almost father to an unborn baby that wasn't mine, and legal opponent to Travis Sutton, the biological father who'd suddenly decided he wanted to play parent from a jail cell. The day after the meeting with Hannah and the counselor, I contacted a family law attorney. Her name was Denise Holloway. Small office, big voice, sharp eyes that scanned everything like she was cataloging weaknesses. She had handled some gnarly custody battles before: abusive parents, drug rehab cases, contested adoptions. She didn't flinch when I told her my story. She just said, "You're going to need to be two things: emotionally bulletproof and surgically precise. If you want to win custody, you'll have to prove two things: that you're the better option, and that he's a threat." I asked her if it would matter that I wasn't the biological father. She shrugged. Biology helps. But family isn't just DNA. It's proximity, stability, intent. You've got intent, a big one. You're willing to take a child born from betrayal and still raise them. She paused. That alone will make a judge look twice. I spent the next few weeks buried in paperwork. Financials. Character references. Home safety inspections. CPS check-ins. Psychological screenings. I wasn't just trying to get guardianship, I was trying to prove I wasn't walking into this out of guilt or revenge or pressure. That I had made a decision. One I was ready to live with for the rest of my life. Hannah signed the paperwork for temporary guardianship at birth. But she refused to testify against Travis. Not because she was protecting him, she said, but because she didn't want to make it worse. That was the line she kept repeating. Worse for who? I asked her once over the phone. She didn't answer. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was cowardice. Or maybe she still had some twisted emotional chain tied to him that I'd never understand. But either way, she left the weight of this battle on me. Meanwhile, Lily had completely wrapped her heart around the idea of becoming a big sister. She started talking to my stomach when I'd come home from work. "Hi, baby. It's Lily. We picked out a stuffed bear for you today. It's brown. Hope you like it." She made drawings, dozens of them. Crayons and colored pencils littered the living room. Pictures of a smiling baby, a crib, a house with 4 stick figures, one taller girl, one baby, one man with messy hair, and a woman, with her head crossed out. That one made my chest ache. But I didn't throw it away. I kept it in a drawer. Because that's what our family looked like now. Incomplete. But still trying. Then came the curveball. For days before the court date, I got a call from Denise. Her voice was tight, clipped. Serious. "We've got a problem," she said. My stomach dropped. Travis got bailed out. His cousin put up the money. What? I stood in the middle of the living room, Lily in the other room, humming while she colored. "You said he wouldn't make bail." I said it was unlikely. I didn't say impossible. My heart pounded. He's out. And he's hired legal representation. A guy named Rick Sutter. Not high-end, but competent enough to drag this out. I sank into the couch. What does he want? He wants shared custody. Or full custody. He's claiming you're emotionally unstable due to the betrayal. That you're acting out of spite and trying to steal his child to punish both him and the mother. I laughed bitterly. He destroyed my family. I know. But he's claiming Hannah manipulated him. That she used him while on drugs, then tried to dump the child onto you when she got clean. The narrative was upside down. Twisted beyond recognition. It was like someone took my life, shredded it, and pasted the pieces back together in the wrong order. Can we fight this? I asked. Yes, Denise said. But it's going to be ugly. And you need to be prepared, not just for court. For him. If he's out, he may try to contact you. Or worse, I thought. Lily came into the room with a drawing. Daddy, can we put this one on the fridge? I looked at her picture. It was a baby in a stroller with the words, "Welcome home." I smiled. Yeah, sweetheart. That's a good one. But my hands were shaking. That night, I installed a new security system. Cameras. Motion lights. Reinforced locks. Because now this wasn't just an emotional fight. It was a war. And I had something worth protecting. The knock came at 2:14 in the morning. 3 quick raps, sharp and deliberate. Not the fumbling of a drunk. Not the soft hand of a neighbor. This was a knock that wanted to be heard. That wanted to wake me. I was already awake, sitting on the edge of the bed, heart pounding so loudly I could feel it in my throat. I don't know why I woke up. Some kind of instinct, maybe. That prickling pressure in the air when something is wrong. I moved to the front window, careful not to step too loudly on the floorboards. Pulled the curtain aside just a hair. A man stood on my porch. Leather jacket. Beanie pulled low. Cigarette burning between his fingers, smoke curling like a slow whisper into the cold air. Travis. Even without a mugshot, I knew. The posture. The jaw. The weight of someone who thought rules didn't apply to him. He didn't knock again. Just stood there. Waiting. Like he knew I was watching. I didn't open the door. I didn't yell. I just turned the porch light on and stared him down from behind the glass. Eventually, he leaned toward the door and said, just loud enough, "You're not gonna win, man." Then he flicked his cigarette into the bushes, turned, and walked off. Didn't run. Didn't hide. He wanted me to see him. I called Denise first thing in the morning. She wasn't surprised. They always test the water, she said. Looking for fear. You did the right thing by not engaging. Document everything. Install exterior cameras if you haven't already. I have. Good. Now double-check that your daughter doesn't open the door to strangers. He's unstable. He's trying to rattle you. It worked. I was rattled. But not scared. Because now, I wasn't just dealing with court dates and custody filings. Now it was physical. Tangible. A threat with a face. 3 days until the hearing. At Lily's school pickup, I started scanning the parking lot before getting out of the car. At the grocery store, I kept one eye on the exit. I told Lily to stick close to me, not to talk to anyone who didn't work at her school, even if they said they knew her mom or dad. And then came the call from the clinic. Hannah had gone into early labor. 32 weeks. Complications. She was being rushed to the hospital across town, not the one we'd agreed on, not the one with our plan in place, but the closest one with a NICU. Everything moved fast. I didn't have time to think. I grabbed my keys, told Lily I'd be home soon, left her with our neighbor who knew just enough of the story to help without asking questions, and drove through red lights to the hospital. By the time I got there, Hannah was already in the delivery room. They wouldn't let me in. I wasn't family. Not legally. Not biologically. I stood behind a glass pane, watching nurses run in and out. The room buzzed with controlled panic. Hannah was pale, her face twisted in pain. The monitors screamed numbers I didn't understand. 2 hours later, a nurse stepped into the hallway and found me. "Mr. Callahan?" "Yes. It's a boy. He's small, about 3 pounds, but breathing on his own. He's in the NICU now. We'll know more in the next few days." I exhaled. And then she said, "Hannah named him." I blinked. What? She filled out the preliminary paperwork. She listed you as emergency contact and temporary guardian, but she named him before she went under. What's the name? The nurse checked her clipboard. Jameson Travis Callahan. I nearly laughed. That was her final twist of the knife. A cocktail of betrayal in one name, Jameson, a name we'd once joked about for a second kid, if we ever had one. Travis, of course, because why not immortalize the man who ruined our family? And Callahan, my last name, like she wanted to brand the child with confusion from birth. I walked down the hallway to the NICU viewing window. Inside the sterile warmth, rows of incubators blinked and beeped. Nurses moved gently, quietly. And there he was. Baby Jameson. Tiny. Red-faced. Wired up like a little machine just learning how to breathe on his own. And I felt something I didn't expect. Not anger. Not grief. Just heaviness. The weight of all that had come before, pressing down on that glass. On that moment. On him. I didn't ask for this. Didn't plan it. Didn't dream of raising someone else's child. Didn't want a son born out of lies and selfishness and drugs. But none of that was his fault. He was here now. And he needed someone. The next morning, Travis filed an emergency petition to block temporary guardianship. His lawyer claimed I had coerced Hannah into naming me legal guardian and that I was using my wealth, which is laughable, because I live paycheck to paycheck, to manipulate the system. The judge scheduled an emergency review. 48 hours. And I would have to stand in court, with no blood tie, no legal adoption, and argue that I, the man who had been cheated on, lied to, and emotionally gutted, should be the one to raise the baby. That I was the better option. The father. In every way that mattered. Courtrooms aren't like what you see on TV. There's no cinematic music swelling in the background, no dramatic outbursts or clever one-liners that flip the case on its head. It's cold. Fluorescent. Quiet in a way that feels unnatural, like everyone's holding their breath waiting for the air to turn back on. And yet, as I stood behind the petitioner's table, dressed in a suit that hadn't fit right in years, hands folded so tight the knuckles went white, the stakes felt higher than anything I've ever known. On the other side of the room sat Travis. Loose tie, crooked grin, fingers tapping against the wood like he was barely tolerating the process. His lawyer, Rick Sutter, looked more like a barroom bouncer than an attorney, thick neck, cheap suit, attitude like he was auditioning for a reality show. The judge, a woman in her 60s with ice-gray hair and sharp eyes, entered without a word. We stood. Saturday. The case was called. Emergency review hearing on the matter of guardianship over infant Jameson Travis Callahan. Hearing his name again, like that, made something twist in my chest. Denise leaned toward me and whispered, stay calm. Let the facts speak. We don't need drama. But Travis? He brought all the drama we didn't ask for. His lawyer started with a performance. That's the only way to describe it. A full 5 minutes of narrative building, how Travis had been manipulated by an older woman in a vulnerable state, how he was denied access to his unborn child, how this man, nodding toward me, inserted himself into a private matter between two biological parents. No mention of the heroin charges. No mention of the assault arrest. No mention of Hannah checking herself into rehab to escape him. Just the story of a poor, misunderstood father fighting for his baby. Denise stood and began our defense with surgical precision. "Your Honor, we're not here to vilify Mr. Sutton," she said, "but we are here to protect a child. A child born prematurely, whose biological mother is currently in inpatient rehabilitation. A child whose biological father has a documented history of substance abuse, violence, and instability." She laid out everything. Charges. Witness statements. The court's own documentation. Hannah's signed statement relinquishing temporary custody to me. And then she said, "Mr. Callahan has no biological obligation to this child. And yet, he's here, voluntarily, offering love, stability, and a safe home. The same home where he's raised a daughter for 10 years. A daughter who is already emotionally invested in her baby brother. He's not asking for recognition. He's asking for protection, for the child. For Jameson." The judge looked at me. "Mr. Callahan, do you want to speak?" I stood slowly, cleared my throat, and said the one thing I hadn't said out loud to anyone yet. "I never wanted this," I said. "I didn't dream of raising another man's child. Especially not like this. But that baby, he didn't ask for any of it. Not the chaos. Not the addiction. Not the betrayal. He was just born. Early. Small. Alone." I took a breath. I've spent the last month building a nursery. Picking up donated preemie clothes. Reading about formula schedules and oxygen saturation. I've had my 10-year-old daughter asking me every night if her brother's going to make it. She draws pictures for him. She's already calling him family. I looked across the room, at Travis, who smirked back like this was just sport to him. He had every opportunity to prepare. To get clean. To show up. He didn't. And now he wants to show up here because it's a chance to win something, not someone. I paused. I'm not doing this because I have to. I'm doing this because I choose to. That child is innocent. And I'll fight for him. Whether I win or not, he deserves to know someone showed up. Silence followed. Heavy. Real. The judge leaned forward. "I'll review the final reports and issue a decision by Monday. Until then, temporary guardianship remains with Mr. Callahan. Mr. Sutton is to have no contact with the child outside of supervised visitation, pending full evaluation." Court adjourned. Travis stood. Walked past me slowly. Leaned in just enough to whisper, "This ain't over." I didn't flinch. Didn't blink. Because I'd already made peace with what came next. This wasn't a sprint. It was a siege. And I was ready. Monday came like a weight pressing down on my chest before I even opened my eyes. Every second dragged. I tried to distract myself, laundry, dishes, organizing the mail, even raking the leaves twice, but nothing worked. I kept checking my phone every few minutes like a man waiting on a call that would decide whether or not his life still made sense. At 3:17 p.m., the phone rang. Denise. "Ryan," she said without any build-up, "we got it. I didn't move. You've been granted full temporary guardianship. The judge ruled in our favor. Effective immediately." Travis's petition was denied on grounds of instability and risk to the minor. I sank into the nearest chair. She issued a no-contact order for Travis until further notice. And she fast-tracked the process for you to apply for full custody. We'll need to file for adoption once Hannah officially signs over her rights after rehab, but this is the biggest hurdle. And you cleared it. I didn't speak. Not right away. I was afraid if I did, I'd break. After we hung up, I went to Lily's room. She was sitting on the floor, braiding the hair of one of her dolls, humming some little tune she'd probably heard on YouTube. When she saw me standing in the doorway, she paused. "You okay, Dad?" I nodded. Sat down beside her. "He's coming home, kiddo," I said softly. "Not today. Not tomorrow. But soon." She blinked. "For real? For real?" Her face lit up like a sunrise. "We should get balloons. And cake. And maybe a blanket that has stars on it. Babies like stars, right?" I laughed for the first time in weeks. "Yeah," I said. "They do." The days after the ruling passed in a quiet haze. Relief is a strange thing. It doesn't burst through your door waving a flag. It creeps in slowly, testing the floorboards, settling into the corners of your home like warmth returning after a long winter. I visited Jameson every day in the NICU. He was still tiny, still a maze of wires and blinking monitors, but he was strong. Fighting. Holding on. One nurse told me, "He's got a stubborn streak, just like his big sister, I bet." I just smiled. The nurses started letting me hold him, skin to skin, with all the wires carefully taped and monitored. The first time they placed him in my arms, he fit into the crook of my elbow like a secret. So light. So fragile. And yet, something about that weight grounded me. He opened his eyes once, just for a second. Brown. Wide. Unfocused. But there. And I whispered to him, "You don't know it yet, kid. But you've already survived the worst storm." I brought Lily to meet him a week later. They prepped her, explained the tubes and the noises. She walked in quietly, eyes wide, holding a drawing of the two of them beneath a sky full of stars. "Hi," she whispered to him. "I'm your sister. I'm gonna help take care of you, okay?" Then she taped the drawing to the side of the incubator. That night, I got a message. Blocked number. No text. Just a video. I shouldn't have opened it. But I did. It was Travis. Sitting in a car. Filming himself. Eyes wild. The camera shaking. "You think this is over?" he said. "You think you're just gonna walk off with my son like you're some kind of hero? Nah. I'm not done. You're gonna hear from me again. Real soon." The video ended there. I saved it. Sent it to Denise. Filed a report. But inside, I felt the old fury flicker to life again. Not because he scared me, he didn't. Not anymore. But because he still didn't understand. This wasn't about him anymore. This was about a boy in an incubator. And a girl drawing stars for him on the side of the glass. And a man, broken, betrayed, rebuilding, who had finally made his choice. Jameson came home on a cold, clear morning in early December. Not a word was spoken in the hospital hallway as they wheeled him out, just the quiet squeak of the bassinet wheels, the soft beep of the monitor they temporarily sent home with us, and the slow, steady rhythm of my heart pounding like a drum that had finally found its beat. He weighed just under 5 pounds now. Still tiny. Still fragile. But alive. Breathing on his own. No oxygen tubes. No IVs. Just a knitted blue cap from the NICU and the soft, sleepy calm of a newborn who had no idea what he'd been born into, or what he'd survived. Lily had made a banner. It wasn't perfect. The "welcome home" was lopsided, and she'd accidentally spelled Jameson with a Z at first, then scratched it out. But it hung proudly across the living room wall, decorated with stars, hearts, and one very determined stick figure holding a baby with giant eyes. She squealed when she saw him. I had to hold her back for a second, not because she would hurt him, but because she was vibrating with joy and excitement and I didn't want her to knock over the bassinet. "Hi, baby brother," she whispered, crouching next to him. "I've been waiting for you forever." That night, the three of us sat in the living room. No TV. Just soft lullaby music and the crackle of a candle. Jameson slept in his bassinet. Lily sat beside me with her head on my shoulder. "You know," she said, "he's not just my brother. He's yours too." I didn't answer right away. She lifted her head. "You're his real dad, even if he doesn't know it yet." And that broke me. Right there, in the quiet of a house that had seen too many storms, I let it all out. The grief. The betrayal. The weight of months spent trying to hold the world together with trembling hands. And Lily, just 10 years old, held me. "Thanks for not giving up," she said into my chest. "On him. Or on me." I held her tighter. Days passed. Then weeks. Jameson began to grow. His cries got louder. His eyes sharper. I started to recognize his needs by sound alone: hungry, tired, gassy, held too long. The same instincts I'd had with Lily came back. Slowly. Like a language I hadn't spoken in a decade. We got a court date for full custody. Hannah, still in rehab, submitted a notarized document formally surrendering her parental rights. There were no long letters. No goodbyes. Just a clean, legal break. She hasn't contacted us since. The last time I saw her was during a required signature meeting via video call. Her hair was longer. Her eyes, blank. She didn't ask how the baby was. She just signed the papers, nodded, and logged off. I realized in that moment, I had already let go of her. Not with bitterness. Not with hatred. Just release. The woman I loved was gone. The one who remained was a stranger. A shadow I no longer chased. The adoption process took 3 months. And on March 3, 9:46 a.m., in a quiet courtroom with just Denise, Lily, and a judge who smiled warmly as she stamped the final papers, I officially became Jameson's father. Not stepfather. Not guardian. Father. Lily held the certificate like it was a treasure map. "We did it," she said, grinning. "We're a whole galaxy now." And I believed her. Because we were not perfect. Not what I imagined when I first said, "I do," to a woman who would later shatter my heart. But real. 3 stars in orbit. Holding on. And if anyone reading this is wondering what to do, whether to stay, to leave, to raise a child that's not yours, to love again after everything you thought you had was torn from you, here's my advice. Let go of what broke you. But hold on to what grew from it. Don't carry their fire. Carry what rose from the ashes. Because sometimes, family isn't what you planned. It's what you choose to fight for, even when the world says you shouldn't have to. And sometimes, love is the quiet decision to stay. Even when every reason says run.